Gaggle, where we challenge and, if necessary, destroy media narratives. I'm George Samueli. With me today, of course, is co-founder of the Gaggle, Peter Lavelle, and it looks like we have blast off for once. We've managed to get it out on time.
Yeah,
Everything
I rubbed the
operating
stomach of
smoothly.
I rubbed the stomach of the Buddha. I'm covering all the bases. I did the rosary, got
Yeah,
the Buddha out.
yeah.
So
Yeah, you did everything. I mean, it's magnificent. Let's just hope that our luck holds. We haven't had a great track record with Rumble, but let's just hope we keep this going. So, how are you? This is supposed to be what we're in the first, second, third day of spring. I mean, is it spring-like weather in Moscow?
well, it's a mixed bag because is in terms of sunshine. Yes, the sunshine is here, and that is the most important thing for me.
I agree,
But it's
absolutely.
been a bit chilly and a bit windy. But like I say, when it's spring and sunglasses, that's my
That's
time of
that's
year. I
that's
like it.
exactly it.
It's nice.
Yes, yes. Here, not too much sun. Still quite chilly, but I guess at some point, as the spring will, and one should say, in terms of history, that today is the 26th anniversary of the NATO bombing campaign against Yugoslavia, March the 24th, 1999. The Bill Clinton and Madeleine Albright managed to cajole the rest of NATO into launching this attack on an absolutely bogus, fraudulent, ridiculous pretext that Bill Clinton explicitly lied about to the American people as to why he was doing this. But I mean, people who remember those days, there was so much lying. The
Yeah.
lying was off the chart. It was even worse than the lying that accompanied the invasion of Iraq, which is just 4 years later. And indeed, if it hadn't been for the ease with which they got away with the Yugoslavia, they probably wouldn't have pulled off the Iraq stunt because they thought we can do anything. I mean, no one
And
can resist us.
and we know with the recent departure of a NATO general secretary, that operation was a success.
Yeah, that's right.
Right.
Yes, that's it. There we go. That is a great,
I
great.
mean, either he believed his own lies, or he just has no idea what he's talking about. It could be a mixture of
could,
both.
could, could be a mixture of both. But what was amazing about that, and both amazing and deeply repugnant, is that NATO was congratulating itself throughout and talking about this brave, fantastic military operation it was undertaking. NATO was showing its prowess. You're beating up a tiny little country of 8 million people. That's your great military operation. The Allies. I remember the New York Times were
A
always
country that can't fight back.
he couldn't fight back. Couldn't fight back. It just had no means of blowing up these aircraft from the sky. Couldn't fight back. And the way they talked, there was, and then it was at that moment I realized that this is a truly disgusting, repulsive organization. When you don't even see how awful you are in treating a small country that poses no threat to you.
It's
And
interesting. It's interesting that you say that. You're absolutely right because you know George and I, growing up, NATO was out there, but I mean, unless you were like a policy wonk and European security or all that, I mean, it was just kind of there, a little dusky, but it was inert. It didn't do anything.
didn't do
And
anything.
then that's how NATO put its, raised its head on the global stage.
That's right.
It attacked a country that could not defend itself,
No,
and it justified it, and then say, "See, this is what we can do with this military alliance. We've
yes,
found our mission.
that's it.
Let's punch down on the weak.
That's it.
Yay!"
That's it. That's it. And then after 11 weeks of just pounding this small country, and the small country just refused to surrender, and so eventually they had to go and threaten Milosevic and say, well, we're gonna start hitting Belgrade. We're gonna just start hitting civilian targets because we've run out of military targets. I mean, you do run out. I mean, after 11 weeks, you run out of any, and they went far beyond military targets. Of course, they hit economic targets and so on. But now they're saying, well, we're gonna have to start hitting civilian targets. I mean, what else are we gonna do? Because protests were kind of rising. I mean, people are becoming uncomfortable. You're bombing a tiny little country. I mean, and for what reason exactly? And so they threatened Milosevic. Well, we're just going to destroy Belgrade, much like the Nazis destroyed Belgrade. And that was when Milosevic said, "Okay, well, I mean, we might as well end it now." He did the responsible thing. I think that's what a responsible leader would do, because the alternative, they would have bombed Belgrade. I mean, they would have actually started destroying Belgrade. I mean, they had nothing else they had to do, but other than that. So it was a horrific, disgusting enterprise. But they're all the characters, Bill Clinton, Tony Blair, they're all congratulating Joschka Fischer, who was the Greens foreign minister, all congratulating themselves. And then off they trotted. Just a few years later, to invading Iraq. Great. That's another small country that we can pummel into the ground.
It's really interesting because the former Yugoslavia is a template for so many different things that we live with today. We have the colored revolution template.
Yes.
We have NATO exercising illegal military power to subjugate. And it forewarned of Iraq, Afghanistan, Libya. It all started in Serbia. Everyone, it all started there.
It did indeed. That's it. Because what they did then is that, hey, this is a viable enterprise, and therefore everybody should join. And it was this birthday present. They gave themselves this birthday. It was the 50th anniversary of NATO, so they gave themselves this birthday present. Hey, look, we're showing NATO's relevance by undertaking the first ever military operation. NATO had never done anything. First ever military operation. And they inducted 3 new members, Poland, Hungary, and the Czech Republic, saying, hey, look, this is a fantastic operation. And that's when they started, inviting everybody else. Every Tom, Dick, and Harry should come and join this wonderful military operation. And you're absolutely right. The Color Revolution, the birth of the Color Revolution was in Belgrade when they ousted Milosevic. And the funny thing,
it was, what was it? It was called Pora. It's time.
That's right, Pora. That's right. Exactly.
And then we see those iterations all through the former Soviet space. Okay, right. Georgia. It was that was a cookie cutter.
Georgia, that's right. Georgia, and then of course, then it was Ukraine in 2004. Ukraine again, 2014. Then we had Kyrgyzstan, then we had Lebanon, and they always gave some different color.
The Cedar
Revolution. In Georgia, it was Rose Revolution. Kyrgyzstan, was it the Tulip Revolution? Tulip, yeah, the Tulip Revolution in Kyrgyzstan, yeah. But what was also interesting is how they pulled off that stunt with Milosevic in 2000 when they declared, that Milosevic had lost the first round, but basically the opposition hadn't got to 50%, so there would have to be a second round. And they immediately declared, oh, no, the opposition, they got more than 50%. How did they know this? They just simply, oh, no, he got more than 50%. So therefore, there's no need for a second round. And that's always, there's no need for a second round. But it was always interesting about that is that they were all saying Milosevic is dictator. Well, how come this dictator had an election in which he lost the first round of the vote? I mean, he's such a dictator and there's no democracy in Serbia. Well, he lost the first round. I mean, that's why they always say, like, Putin, it's a dictatorship in Russia. Oh, great elections in Moscow. Putin has done really badly in these elections in Moscow.
It would be hilarious if it weren't so tragic. Is that all this Russian meddling meme that we hear all the time? I mean, George and I could speak until we're both blue in the face of the manipulation of elections in Europe. Geographically within the European Union now, it's just quite extraordinary. The pot calling the kettle black. Right. And what the difference is that Russia denies it because there's no evidence of it, but the EU, they're proud of it. They're proud of what they do. They're proud of subverting democracy.
That's right. That's exactly right.
And the UK. It does it to the United States election after election cycle, and they're proud of it. They're open about it.
That's right. That's right. And you're absolutely right, because they've never presented anywhere any evidence of Russian meddling. I mean, over and over again, Russia meddled in Brexit, Trump, And of course, every election, there's Russian meddling. So the other day, there was an article in Foreign Affairs magazine which claimed that somehow, those terrorist attacks in Germany, those jihadis who were kind of driving into crowds and so on, somehow Russia was involved in that. They didn't explain how is Russia involved in, how could they get to these jihadis? Or Russia's involvement, that was it because they wanted to boost the
Yeah, but there is ample evidence that the United States was involved in the Chechen conflict.
yes,
Okay, ample
yes,
of it, evidence of it.
yes,
Okay, and
yes,
and whose idea was it to radicalize jihadists?
yes.
Oh, Afghanistan. I mean,
That's right.
you
Yes,
all our dear viewers. Okay, this is why this job gives me so much joy, but so much exhaustion too. What
yes,
was the election, George? I guess it was like a year ago. Things are happening so fast. Oh, well, in retrospect, we didn't see any Russian meddling in the election. I mean, a priori, you have to assume it.
yes,
That's how
yes,
they've programmed the
yes,
media.
yes. Yes, that's right. That's right. But if you don't see it, that doesn't mean that it didn't happen.
Well, that
You
makes
know,
it even worse.
that's the
That makes
important
it
thing.
worse.
That's right. That
Worse.
somehow yes.
We knew they did it. We still don't know how.
That's right.
We have no
Exactly.
evidence.
That's right.
That's being pathological,
That's right.
everyone. That's a
That's
pathological state of mind.
That's right. That famous quote by former Defense Secretary Don Rumsfeld. Um, Absence of evidence does not mean evidence of absence. You have to sit there thinking what it is. In other words, since you didn't have any evidence of Iraqi weapons of mass destruction, that doesn't mean that you didn't have them.
Yeah. The same
He
guy
had
that
them.
gave us the phrase, the known knowns and the known
The known,
unknowns.
yeah, that's right. Yeah, he was.
Kamala Harris should have studied him.
That's right. He had a pithy tone of phrase. So that was the new NATO, and it was a catastrophe, and it was done explicitly with that purpose. I mean, the reason why they came up with this plan to bomb the Serbs was that they needed to find a new rationale for NATO. I mean, up until then, after 1991, there were these voices arising, saying, "Well, now it's the Cold War's over, and now that we don't have a Warsaw Pact, you don't have the Soviet Union, you don't have communism. Do we really need NATO?" People would ask very politely. I mean, it was just sotto voce.
Muffled voices.
Yeah, yes. No one would want it to rush out. Hey, let's dissolve
I'm glad
NATO.
that George brings it up because it's kind of personal for me. Is that in 1991? It was in the New York Review of Books, which everybody read. I did. Okay, and Foreign Affairs and all the other tabloidy foreign policy, because they are tabloids to me. Okay, was openly discussed, and then after the coup in 2014 in Kiev, I was, assumed I was banned from Twitter because I said it's been debated before.
Oh, exactly.
Boom, you're gone. What was I always forget? We have to, almost a religious term. We have to.
What was something that
venerate? Or no?
Yes, that's right. Yeah, because we have to work on the assumption that NATO is a force for good. And so therefore, since we're working on that assumption, anyone who questions it questions the existence of good in the world, and therefore is
as if it's some kind of church.
Yes, that's right. Exactly. That was the censorship. I think it was either Facebook or Twitter. One of them actually was operating.
It's Twitter for sure.
Yeah, I think that was Twitter on that basis. So now going back to what's going on today, we'll talk about these negotiations that are going on right now in Riyadh in a moment. But what was one interesting that emerged over the weekend was the Trump administration's plans for Iran, which do seem to be a lot more radical than we had assumed. So, because we were talking yesterday about Steve Witkoff's interview with Tucker Carlson, and Witkoff was taking a quite moderate stance on Iran. So let me just show you if I can here with is the Witkoff. Can you see it, Peter?
Yep.
Okay, yeah, good. Everything's working really well today. So
Oh,
here's
don't jinx it. Don't jinx it.
yes, that's right. So Tucker Carlson, for people who aren't aware of the letter, can you roughly describe what he said? He was talking about the letter that Trump had sent to Supreme Leader Khamenei. And Witkoff says, it roughly said, I'm a president of peace. That's what I want. There's no reason for us to do this militarily. We should talk. We should clear up the misconceptions. We should create a verification program so that nobody worries about weaponization of your nuclear material. And I'd like to get us to that place because the alternative is not a very good alternative. That's a rough encapsulation of what it said, roughly. And then
That doesn't seem like policy.
no, it didn't. But that just simply said, well, that's all that Trump said in that letter, which, to be honest, even from Trump's own description, you feel I think there was a little bit more to it than that. And the president has said that. He said that. So I'm not telling you anything that's top secret or anything of that sort. The Iranians have reached back out, and I'm not at liberty to talk about specifics, but clearly, through back channels, through multiple countries and multiple conduits, they've reached back out. I think that it has a real possibility of being solved diplomatically, not because I've talked to anybody in Iran, but just because I think I think logically it makes sense that it ought to be solved diplomatically. It should be. I think the president has acknowledged that he's open to an opportunity to clean it all up with Iran, where they come back to the world and be a great nation once again and not have to be sanctioned and being able to grow their economy. Their economy, I mean, they are very smart people. Their economy was once a wonderful economy. They're being strangled and suffocated today. There's no need for that to happen. They can join the League of Nations. That's going back a bit, but okay. And we can have a better relationship and maybe and grow that relationship. And that's what he's presenting. That's the alternative he's presenting. I think he wants to lead with Iran with respect. He wants to build trust with them if it's possible. And it's his directive to his administration. And hopefully it will be met positively by the Iranians. And I'm certainly hopeful for it. I think anything can be solved with dialogue by clearing up misconception and miscommunication between people. And then he says, and the president is a president who doesn't want to go to war, and he'll use military action to stop a war. That's when he actually wants to use military action. In this particular case, hopefully it won't be necessary. Hopefully we can do it at the negotiating table. Now, what he seems to be saying here is simply is what we had always assumed. He doesn't want Iran to have nuclear weapons, and that's all that he's saying. That Trump wants to ensure that that Iran will maintain a peaceful, a civilian nuclear energy program, and to make sure that it's not going to be used for military nuclear purposes. That's what Witkoff is saying here. But then National Security Advisor Mike Waltz went on CBS's news, Face the Nation, and said something very different. So let's watch that here. Here he is.
We begin first on national security. In just a few hours, U.S. officials will be holding talks with Ukraine, and tomorrow a separate round with Russia in pursuit of a 30-day ceasefire. In the meantime, the Trump administration is ramping up the U.S. military presence in the Middle East, sending a second aircraft carrier to the region. We begin this morning with White House National Security Advisor Mike Waltz. Good to have you here.
Thanks, Margaret.
So the Iran-backed Houthis, they continue to fire at Israel. What is the last week of bombing achieved? And if you're holding Iran responsible, what's next?
Well, we've taken out key Houthi leadership, including their head missileer. We've hit their headquarters. We've hit communications nodes, weapons factories, and even some of their over-the-water drone production facilities. Just in the last couple of days, President Trump has decided to hit the Houthis and hit them hard, as opposed to in the last administration where literally weeks or months would go by with these kind of one-off pinprick attacks. And as a result, We've had one of the world's most critical sea lanes get shut down. I mean, these guys are like Al Qaeda or ISIS with advanced cruise missiles, ballistic missiles, and some of the most sophisticated air defenses, all provided by Iran. Or just to, so everybody understands the impact here, the last time one of our destroyers went through the straits there, it was attacked 23 times. 75% of our U.S. flagged shipping now has to go around the southern coast of Africa rather than going through the Suez Canal. And keeping the sea lanes open, keeping trade and commerce open is a fundamental aspect of our national security. The last administration,
George, can you stop it for a sec?
Yep.
Administration and President Trump